What if working longer is actually costing you more than you think? Here are the 5 signs that it's time to retire right now. There are obviously many reasons why you may need to keep working, and many of those are financial benefits, such as income, 401k, or health benefits, things like that. But at some point, the marginal benefit of those extra dollars begins to fade, and it actually starts costing us to keep working. That's the case when one of these 5 factors starts coming into your life. Reason number 1 is when you start to realize that time is your only non-renewable currency. There's always more money to be made, even if it's difficult. There's always a way to make up more income or financial loss. Money is something there's always more of. Time, on the other hand, is something we can never get back. The earlier on in your career, the more money matters and time doesn't. You typically have a lot more time and a lot less money. So the focus is growing your money and sacrificing your time to do so. But at some point, once you've accumulated that money, once you have enough, time becomes a much more important resource. Time becomes that thing that you realize is non-renewable. I worked with a lot of people that end up retiring much later than they wanted to, just because they never got around to doing it. They felt like they had all the time in the world once they retired, and tragically they didn't. Within a couple of months or even a couple years, these people fell ill, and some of them even passed away. Now, in those final days, they weren't thinking more about the money or their portfolio or that last bonus they received. They were thinking about time. They were thinking about what they would do to get more time. Now that seems dark and somber, but this is one of the things I really encourage people to think about when it comes to retirement. Yes, you do need to be financially ready for retirement. And yes, you need to make sure that you're prepared. But once you're there, the more we put off retirement, the less time we have, and you realize at some point, sometimes too late, the time is something you can never get back. So you do have to strike for balance. This isn't to say that everyone can just get up and go retire and have all the time in the world. If you don't have the financial wherewithal to do it, you're not going to be able to do much with all that time that you do have. However, once you're ready, once you're in a position to do so, understand how much more important time is. The time to do what you want to do. That's something you'll never get back. Money is something that will always be there. Granted, it may be difficult. It might not be easy, but there's always a way to make more and recoup losses. Time is another story. So remember that time is a non-renewable currency. The awareness of that can hopefully drive us to ensure that we know when it's appropriate to retire as opposed to continue to work. The second reason it may be time to retire is you may need to improve your health. Now imagine the average person who's a year away from retirement and they've spent 40 years grinding away, putting in overtime, paying off a mortgage, raising a family, having children, and doing all these different things. The average picture of that person is someone who is overworked, overstressed, burnt out, and barely getting by. By the time the average person actually reaches retirement, there's a lot of burnout and stress. And that stress leads to negative health outcomes. It could be depression, anxiety, stroke, cardiovascular issues. There are all kinds of negative health impacts that stress can cause. What we have to realize is typically those later work years, when we're in our peak earning years, we might actually be in our peak stress years. So if you're in a job that's demanding a lot of you, realize that your health is also a very important aspect. If your health deteriorates after a certain point, it may become very challenging, if not impossible for some people to recoup that. The last thing anybody wants to do is retire and then have to sit around because their health isn't good enough to allow them to do the things they want to do or go the places they want to go. So it may be time for you to retire when you realize work isn't just taking your time, if it's taking your health as well. Retirement may be a way of getting your health back. You have time and the availability to focus on reducing stress, exercising, eating healthy, and taking care of yourself so you can actually enjoy the next season of your life and everything you want to do with that. The third reason it might be time for you to retire is so you can spend more time with your family and your friends. The quality of our relationships largely determines the quality of our lives. Think about the average person working, assuming a 40-hour work week. Assume you work a 40 to 50-hour week, and you add in a couple hours for your commute, couple hours for running errands, couple hours for cleaning the house, and doing the things you just need to do in order to live. How much time does that leave left over for family and friends? How much quality time is even left? Before you start thinking I'm anti-work, I'm very much not anti-work. I love work and I love my work. And I know a lot of people love their work. In fact, one thing I talk about all the time is designing the life that you don't want to retire from so you can enjoy work along the way. And there's just a balance you need to achieve between doing something you love, doing something you enjoy, doing something that's fruitful, but making sure that doesn't hold you back from the things that matter. Your health, your time, your relationships, and other factors like that. Too often people say things that are sad like, I just don't have time to stay in touch with that friend, or I don't have time to call my parent or sibling or child, because work and life can be so demanding. Well, if you're at that point, it just doesn't need to be so. And if you're financially prepared, to not need to work, ask yourself, what's it costing you when it comes to your relationships in terms of family and friends? The time you spend with them, the energy you have to devote to them? If it's starting to detract from that, it may be time to retire. The fourth reason it might be time to retire is you realize that your best years are limited. A lot of people, maybe at 62 years old, say, well, I have 30 years to live till about 92, so I have 30 years left, which seems like a lot of years. But we have to understand that not all of those years are created equal. You're going to have a lot more energy, time, and health from ages, say, 62 to 65 than you will from 82 to 85. So it's not really truly 30 years. You may have 30 years of lifespan, but how long is your health span? How long will you have your health, energy, and the ability to do what you actually want to do? Whether it's travel, activities, or hobbies, it's probably not the next 30 years. Or you might, but you realize that ages 62 to 65 are going to be the best years. Then 65 to 70 may still be really good years, which might be a tad less good. But then from 70 to 75, and we realize, yes, there may still be life, but the quality of life starts to decline, especially if more work is detracting from your health, which is actually taking more time away. We call these different phases of life the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. So when looking at retirement and saying, okay, I may have another 20 or 30 years, realize that not all of those years are created equal. Even if you work just another 2, 3, or 4 years, those might be the best 2, 3, 4 of the rest of your life. So how do you spend them doing other things? Obviously, everybody's different. As I said in the beginning, it's all about trying to balance things. This isn't to say everybody should just go retire. A lot of people aren't in a financial position to do so. But once you are, ask yourself, could it be costing me the best years of my life? Should I be retired and actually pursuing things that I want to be doing? The fifth reason it might be time to retire now is you're financially ready. I've been touching on this the whole video, but oftentimes I've seen it's very difficult for people who have worked 30, 35, 45 years to just one day up and say, oh, I'm ready to be done. The thing that you've done for 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, week after week, year after year, really become part of our identity. Even if we don't love it, even if it's something that's been taking away our time or taken away from friends and family, it's something that we've done for decades. And it can feel very scary to not do it anymore. It's very easy to become a byproduct of the habits we've had over a lifetime. But if we start just working for work's sake, we realize there's a huge cost to that. It's important to be intentional. If you're financially able, and by financially able, I mean you have enough income from your portfolio, Social Security, pensions, annuities, enough steady income to make sure you're never going to outlive your money, and you'll be able to maintain the lifestyle that you want to have. If we continue working beyond that, not because you love work, but it's just something you've always done, it tends to become a real issue. I've especially seen this case be true with spouses. One spouse is ready for the other to retire and for them to start living the life that they dreamed about, but the other spouse just isn't ready to give up work. And this can create tension amongst their dreams and their marriage and their idea of their best time together. So make sure you never fall into the trap of working for work's sake. There should be a purpose to your work. And that purpose could be work itself. You may love work and it may be fulfilling. It could be a productive or creative outlet for you. If so, well, wonderful. That should be something that you continue to do for as long as you can keep doing it. And that is assuming that you're still able to focus on that balance we talked about between time, relationships, your friends and family, and your health. But make sure that work fits into your version of your ideal life, that you're creating the life you never truly want to retire from. And make sure it doesn't become the expense of everything else you care about in life. So these are the 5 reasons it may be time to retire right now. So if you're resonating with this, or you may be thinking, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but how do I know that last point? How do I know when I'm financially able to retire? I would encourage you to watch my video entitled How to Overcome Money Anxiety in Retirement. In this video, I talk all about my new best-selling book, Buy Back Your Life, and I would love to send you a copy absolutely for free. This book will detail step-by-step instructions on how you know you'll be financially secure and able to retire and enjoy the life that you want. So be sure to check out that video. Once again, I'm Daniel Rondberg, and if you're interested in seeing how we make sure our clients are financially stable for retirement, head on over and visit us at nationsfirstfin.com. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video and you want more information about retirement, be sure to check out my new book, Buy Back Your Life, How to Stop Worrying About Money and Start Living in Retirement. If you want a copy of this book absolutely for free, call my office with this phone number below. Talk to the girls at the front desk. You don't have to provide any information. We just need your name and address, and they'll mail you out your copy today.